welcome to M2M Baseball Content. My name is Tom Kapoor. I'll be hosting. I'm joined by a very special guest from Mexico. We got the big Dodgers fan coming in to talk baseball with us. How you doing?
I'm great. It's great over here. Watching baseball from here is just amazing to see the fans again in the stadiums and all that. So yeah.
So we got a lot of baseball stuff to talk about right now. It's been a minute since we recorded. The trade deadline has come and gone. As a Nats fan, it sucks. It really does.
As a Dodgers fan, it's fantastic.
I'm sure it is. So the blockbuster deal of the trade deadline between the Nats and the Dodgers is Max Scherzer and Trey Turner going to the Dodgers, solidifying their lineup and rotation of all MVPs. And Nats received two of the top prospects in the MLB, Gabriel Ruiz, catcher, right-handed pitcher Josiah Gray, then also right-handed pitcher Gerardo Carrillo and Donovan Casey. So let me just get your reaction to the trade. I'm assuming it's positive. I'm hoping
Positive.
it's positive.
Definitely positive. I think it was that day where Scherzer was announced to probably go to the Padres. I think my heart broke into pieces because, again, as a Dodgers fan, I don't really want to see the Padres do that good, right? But then by the end of the day, seeing that maybe they might go to the Dodgers and they might not only bring Scherzer, but Trey Turner to the mix, it was an absolute shock to me and just fantastic because of all the injuries that have happened. It's just hopefully it's something that can push the Dodgers above the Giants in these last 45 games, I think. So hopefully we get the 9th straight division title.
Yeah, so I mean, watching Max's debut with the Dodgers was I said, watching him stalk the mound as a Dodger, it's rough, man. It just is.
It is. But I can imagine.
He goes 7 innings, 2 runs, 10 Ks, gets a curtain call. He says it's his first curtain call he's got. Again, rough. And Trey Turner, he was on the COVID list, but he's since gone off. And I don't know if you saw this on Twitter, that he had the most smooth slide on the planet.
Oh, I saw it. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, it was it sucks because I've been a Nats fan for 10 years. I've seen Turner ever since he came up. And people are now finally seeing just how fast he is and how game changing he is. And people are oh, I had no idea this guy was so good. It's I've been knowing that.
Exactly.
So
yeah. I think
so that's been tough. And sorry, I don't even know. But
go ahead.
For who the Nats got, what do you know about these guys? Gabriel Ruiz, one of the best catching prospects in the game, and then Josiah Gray.
I've definitely seen them play, and Josiah Gray actually made his debut a couple of weeks ago with the Dodgers. He didn't do that well. He had a couple of earned runs in very few innings, but he did strike a lot of runners and players, right? So he definitely showed some prospect. And Gabriel Ruiz, he has played as really just when players got hurt, right? When Austin Barnes was in paternity leave and stuff like that. It was just he was there to help. And just he was there to bat as well. He didn't really do a lot of catching. He just came up from the bench as a pinch hitter, right? And so as far as I can remember, he wasn't really batting that well in the major leagues, but he also had a very premature kind of rise to the major leagues, especially with all of the injuries that happened this year and the couple of years, that have passed. So I really think that he can do a great job in the Nats. If, of course, the Nats give him, the opportunity and train him for the major leagues.
Yeah, and talking about Josiah Gray, he has been incredible for the Nats so far. He's made 3 starts. Last night, pitched 6 innings, gave up 3 runs on 3 solo homers, but also struck out 6. Nats lost, obviously, because that's just what they do now. We hate to see it. But in Josiah Gray's first start, I believe he went 5 innings, 1 run ball with a couple Ks, and then his second start, 5 innings, 10 Ks, and 20+ swing strikes. And what I think is really important for the Nats fan base is to see guys come in from this trade and make an immediate impact because, you're losing one of the most dominant pitcher in Nationals history for the past 7 years in Max Scherzer. And then losing Turner is just a gut punch. He is, in my opinion, he's Soto, the future of this team. And then And they traded away a year and a half of him. It wasn't a rental. So the Dodgers have him for a year, and they're probably going to sign him. Like, they're the Dodgers. They have unlimited amount of money. So you lose these guys, and a lot of times you trade for players that aren't necessarily MLB ready, and you don't get that help, or you don't get to see what those guys give you until a couple years down the road. So seeing Josiah Gray come in and be very, very strong is definitely something that Nats fans gives them something to look forward to, in my opinion. I think it's great. And Gabriel Ruiz, he has the potential to be the Nats catcher for the next decade. Like, this guy is he's one of the best hitting catchers. Prospect pipeline wise, he probably is the best hitting catcher. He's been raking in AAA the entire year. So I think they're probably going to call him up, honestly, at the end of the season. They have. Why would they not? They don't have anything else going for them at this point. They gotta show the fans that, that Mike Rizzo. I mean, fans, like, when he traded Turner, I was like, does this guy know what he's doing? So,
hopefully he does.
Hopefully he does, right? So I think, and I mean, Casey and Carrillo, I don't know too much about them. Do you know anything about them?
Not really. At least, like, from what I can remember, I haven't seen them play a lot, or at least at all. But the thing about the Nats is that they don't really have, this is going to sound pretty mean, but they don't have, like, the star-studded, like, lineup and bullpen, that and rotation that the Dodgers or the Yankees or whatever team, that right now is in first have, so, but this gives an opportunity for them to shine above everyone else, right? And for them to really give them a shot. I think Josiah Gray with the Dodgers, he definitely would have shown, but I think he would have sort of been in the shadow of Kershaw or Buehler or even Urias, right? So I think in the Nats, he really has the potential to, I don't know at this point if he can become the next Max Scherzer, but he might as well, for Nats fans, he might as well be at this moment, right? Like, at least that's what you're hoping.
Yeah, like last night I see the Nats lose, but Josiah Gray pitches very strong, and that's a win, honestly, for me. Like, I don't care. Like, I would prefer if they win.
Yeah.
But, like, it doesn't matter at this point. Like, they're 10 games back there. They have made their bed in that they're not competing this year. And so they just got to develop their players, their young talent, which this team has not had a good farm system for a long time. And I mean, when you're a team contending, trying to win for 7 or 8 straight years, that's just not going to happen, right? Yeah. So we got our World Series. I love it. The last legitimate World Series win.
Ha. You're just salty because the Nats weren't able to win in a 60-game season. Sorry.
Yeah, that's whatever. We don't have to get into that. But
I am glad that you beat the Astros. I'm gonna say that as a Dodger fan, I'm really glad that you beat the Astros fair and square in the World Series.
Yeah, that was just fantastic. So I mean, for the Nats, I think, they trade away Brad Hand. Brad Hand just comes in last night, bases loaded, bottom of the 9th, tie game. He walks Jared Kelenic on 4 pitches and gives up a walk-off walk. Mike Rizzo, he might know what he's doing there. He got a solid catching prospect for Brad Hand, and this team trading away Yan Gomes, Josh Harrison, Daniel Hudson, and I mean, just this is not necessarily the core they had when they won the World Series, but it was clear they were trying to kind of recapture that lightning this season that they had in 2019. And it did work, but that's fine because they know that as a team, they knew what they were. And they made, in my opinion, they made the right decision to trade away their guys. Unfortunately, you're losing 30-40 million a year in Scherzer, or not, in Strasburg and Corbin contracts, because they're not who they were. It's just they're just not. I mean, going as deep as possible into October. Like, I understand, sure, Strasburg is an injury-prone kind of guy, so it makes sense. Yeah. But talking about the Dodgers a little more, so we don't see in baseball a dynasty kind of team like we see in other sports, like the Patriots or something like that. But this is a roster that is just so unbelievably stacked. I think their favorites to repeat. Is anything else a failure for them?
I think this year has been kind of insane just because, first of all, I think a lot of people saw the Dodgers to be the head of the NL West, right? And suddenly the Giants come out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere, with the same guys that have been probably playing for the past 5 years in the roster, right? And they suddenly become a playoff team, right? They suddenly become
the best team in the league at this point, record wise.
In the whole, like in general,
Yeah.
you know, and it's incredible how to see them flourish, right? And I think it has been sort of like, first of all, injuries, I've mentioned them quite a lot. Kershaw's still not in, you know, like during June, May, we had a lot of players be gone. Bellinger just came back a couple of weeks ago and is still trying to get into that, like, hit whatever ball you can, right, and not strike out kind of rhythm. You know, and I think that really helped the Giants put themselves on top of everything, right? And I think an issue that has really been bugging me for the past and the Dodgers for the past 3-4 years has been the bullpen. Obviously, it has been not a very trustworthy bullpen, to say the least, right? Of course, like, you have great guys like Victor Gonzalez, right? And you have all of these bullpen arms, but they're not really trustworthy, and you wouldn't really put them in a really tight game situation, right? Like Kenley Jensen had his moment, right? A couple of months ago, he had a month where he didn't have a blown save, right? He would save all of the games, right? And then suddenly he starts losing and giving up runs, right? And walks and all that stuff. So I think that has really hurt the Dodgers, especially, like, I think yesterday they broke 11 game, like, snap or streak, right, of losing in extra innings. They had lost 11 in a row in extra innings, which is something a couple of years ago, I think, like in 2019, they would have a bunch of walk-offs, at least from as far as I can remember. They would walk off all the time.
Three straight walk-offs by rookies. I remember
exactly. Verdugo, Beatty, and Smith, right? They all walked off, like, and then Bellinger walked off as well, like that same weekend, right? So right now it's just really focusing on coming in the clutch moments, right? And you have people who do it, right? Like Will Smith has done it a couple of times, right? Even in the NLCS, right? He hit a 3-run home run against the Braves, and suddenly they're on top, right? And so you need more of those guys who can push you over the top when you need it, right? And I think definitely Tria Turner is one of those guys that maybe can spark the momentum, hopefully at least, that can spark the momentum for the Dodgers to win and in these extra innings or tight games, you know?
Yeah, and Turner is just, he is the very definition of a spark plug. And I mean, this roster, Max Muncy at first, one of the best on-base guys in the league.
Yeah.
Bellinger, you know, he has been, it's been rough. It's been a rough
it's been a rough year
this season. But he has, I think, he's an 8-game hitting streak or something now. He might be starting to come around.
I think so. Hopefully.
Yeah, and I know Betts is he on the IL again?
Again, that's, I think, another issue with Betts just constantly being on the IL. I think, like, he had been just hitting fantastic, like, home runs and hits and doubles and triples and all of this, and he played second base, which I never saw him play.
He made ridiculous plays at second base too.
Exactly, and it was amazing to see him finally flourish after, like, nagging injuries, right? But now he's still landing on the IL, you know, and it worries me now that, like, in the 45 game stretch that's left, right, that he might not get better, right, and he might not maybe reach that potential that Dodger fans and, like, everyone alike expects him to reach, you know?
Yeah, and for a team like this, you would think, okay, well, in the stretch run, they kind of can coast and maybe try to get the guys healthy, but no, that's just not how it is right now. The Giants, I mean, like you said, the most surprising team in the league. I was talking to a couple of people about this, and they were like, "Oh yeah, Giants second half, it's gonna be fine for the Dodgers. Giants are gonna fall off. They can't sustain the success they're doing." And they have like 74, 75 wins right now. Like, so they are the best team record-wise in the league. Better than the Astros, better than the Dodgers, 5 games below the Dodgers at this point. So the Dodgers, obviously you want to win this division. You don't want to have to predicate everything on a 1-game wild card, especially when you're facing your opposing team's best pitcher. So going off that, if there was a wild card game, who starts for the Dodgers?
I think definitely either Scherzer or Buehler have been, I think, the most trustworthy at this point, right? Like, definitely Buehler has shown us I've always trusted Bueller. I've always liked his pitching style, and seeing him this like season just completely reach, or not 100%, but really show people that he can really pitch, I think it makes me really happy, right? And he has proved himself over and over again in the playoffs that he has what it takes
Absolutely.
to pitch in a playoffs game, right? And definitely Scherzer does too. So whichever of those two should be good. Personally, I think Kershaw comes back in September. I wouldn't put Kershaw, as much as I love Kershaw, he's great. I feel like he hasn't had the best reputation for games in playoffs, right? And obviously last year was an exception, right? But I feel like if you really want to prove and beat whichever wild card team you're going to play, especially the Padres, at this point, they are the other wild card team. So I think you really need to put a hand there or an arm that pitches them and dominates them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have. Bueller, from a fantasy baseball standpoint, Bueller has come into this year being the kind of pitcher who is always on innings limit, always on a pitch count, and never hits 6 innings. Last year, I believe he had 6 innings once.
Yeah.
This season, in a complete turnaround that I did not expect, he comes in and he has pitched less than 7 innings, I think twice this entire season. That's just crazy. I believe he leads the league in quality starts, or maybe he's up there in quality starts. Like you have Bueller come in, who is at this point, in the most unexpected fashion, the most reliable innings eater in the league. Yeah. And in a wild card game, that's what you need. And I mean, you got Bueller going 6 or 7, and then you talk about the bullpen. Maybe Max comes in, pumps 98, 99 for an inning or 2 innings, and then that's just it, right? So this is obviously a good problem to have for the Dodgers. And one more question about the Dodgers. You look at power rankings and stuff. You want to say the Dodgers are the best team roster-wise in the league. I think they've been roster-wise the best team in the league for a long time. I mean, when the Nats played them in 2019, I think the Dodgers had a better roster than they did. The Nats were a buzzsaw that year. That's how playoffs are.
Exactly.
So if you were to make the top 3 in the power rankings, would the Dodgers or the Giants be at the top spot?
Again, I definitely put the Dodgers. This is very unbiased opinion, right? But I've said this before. I feel like the Giants just have the same team they've had for the past 5 years, right? They've had Crawford. They've maybe added some new people, but not really like blockbuster names like Scherzer, Trea Turner, or Anthony Rizzo, right? And definitely like power rankings wise, definitely the Dodgers have the better bullpen, the better starting rotation, the better this and that, it's just been a matter of the environment itself that hasn't let them to go above the Giants, right? And it's just how baseball is. And, it's the magic of baseball. You can't really bet on a team, right? Because so many things, unexpected things can happen in the season, right? That just can completely blow away your expectations. And I think that's what the Giants did, right?
Yeah, and I mean, the Giants did make their marquee move in acquiring Chris Bryant from the Cubs. I mean, he had a ridiculous April and May, and then June it was just horrible. He was batting under 200, but he's turned it around a little bit. He's hitting 279 over the past couple of weeks as a Giant. The Giants right now have won 5 straight. They've won 14 of their past 20, and them and the Rays are the hottest teams in the league since the trade deadline. And I mean, as a Dodgers fan, you're like, why can't we're getting all this talent. We got to just put it together. Right. Yeah. So, the division is still open. 5 games is not an insurmountable lead, but if you want to look at the wild card, the Padres with the way Tatis is, his injury is kind of taking him. I hate it because I love Tatis, and Tatis is, he was on pace for 50-50 season playing 20 games less than everyone else. It's just ridiculous. But he might be getting shoulder surgery during the season, and it might end his season. So, and the Padres have, I think they've lost like 2 in a row to the Diamondbacks or something. They're kind of floundering a little bit. So you might see the Reds come in and take the wild card spot from the Padres, which, if the Dodgers were to play a wild card game against the Reds, I feel like they would win like 20-0.
Hopefully, yeah.
So the way the standings are, the Giants and the Dodgers, I think, are the 2-team race. I think it went from a 3-team race to a 2-team race for the top of this division.
Definitely. I think the Padres are right now like at the same sort of like game differential as the Nats, right? I think it's 10 games, right?
I think they're 9 and the Nats are 10.
Yeah, like I don't think they've given up per se, because I don't think any team gives up until like you are,
Except the Nats.
Yeah, I mean, they can still, pull something together. That's again the unexpected thing about baseball. But I think they definitely don't have things going their way, especially with Tatis, right? And I think Darvish, right, London either is injured or something like that.
I think he's definitely I don't know, injured. He's fallen off a little bit, and I mean, Musgrove, Paddock haven't been. I mean, Musgrove was one of, if not the best pitcher in the first month of the season. He threw that no hitter, which was amazing. But he's kind of fallen off a little bit. Paddock hasn't been the guy that the Padres drafted him or developed him to be at this point. And I mean, but the Padres, like, they have another stacked lineup. Like, even without Tatis, they got Machado, Will Myers, Grisham, Pham, Adam Frazier now. So you can't count them out. And in a playoff game, a wild card playoff game, they got Darvish, one of a shaky playoff guy, but I think at this point he's a proven playoff pitcher.
And again, like, coming from a Dodgers fan, seeing Darvish pitch in the World Series against the Astros, right? Like, I wouldn't say he was the most reliable guy when it comes to a playoff game, but again, like, 28-17 is a different story. It's a big asterisk kind of World Series, right, with the Astros whole cheating scandal. So I think the only time that we've seen him pitch in the playoffs has been against a team that basically knew what was coming, right? So I think he can really turn it around. Hopefully he doesn't, again, coming from a Dodgers fan's perspective, hopefully he doesn't like turn around and come pitch in a wild card game and absolutely dominate the Dodgers, but I think it would definitely be great to see him at least find a little bit of success in these last few weeks of the season.
Yeah, so we're going to move away from the trade deadline. But we'll talk, I'll just mention a couple of the other blockbuster deals. Javi Baez goes to the Mets.
Triad has been broken from the Cubs.
Yeah, exactly, right. And I just a quick tangent, like the Cubs, they won their World Series in 16. And they kept their guys for 5 years. But it didn't really work out, which is why I'm glad the Nats sold their guys. Because the Cubs, after waiting 5 years of playoff hopes after their World Series, they now are looking in the face of a rebuild.
Yeah.
Whereas the Nats, we won our World Series 2 years ago. Now I'm okay with get a couple years, get your farm system up, and hopefully contend with a stronger core later on. So talking about the one of the bigger MLB stories, not only in baseball but just in sports in general, the Field of Dreams game. This has been a plan by MLB since it was planned for last year. COVID obviously derailed that, but this was a spectacle. This was awesome. Like I'll just run down the stats real quick. White Sox topped the Yankees in a 9-8 storybook thriller of a game. Like if you're an MLB executive and you're like, how do I want to draw this game up so it is the best possible for this event? 6 total runs in the 9th inning, a walk-off homer by the king of walk-off homers, Tim Anderson. It's just perfect. So Tim Anderson walks it off in the 9th, the 2-run shot. All-star Liam Hendricks gave up 4 runs in the 9th, homer by Stanton, go-ahead homer, and then a 2-run shot by Judge, second homer in the game. So this game featured the highest ratings of any regular season game in 15 or 16 years. So what did you think about the game?
I loved it. I watched it, and just the feel of the whole thing, right? Like, I watched Field of Dreams. I think almost all baseball fans watch Field of Dreams, and I think a lot of non-baseball fans watch Field of Dreams, which I think is why it had such good ratings, right? Like, it catered for everyone, right? You didn't necessarily have to be a baseball fan to know that was the Field of Dreams, right? And know that when the White Sox and the Yankees were walking out of the cornfield. It wasn't only about baseball, but it was a whole a bigger thing than baseball. And I think that's a model that MLB has been going for, right? Like rooting for, like, it's more than baseball, right? It goes beyond just a sport. It can influence people and it can touch people, and the feels essentially. I definitely seen like some of the rumors going around that it was all scripted, right? And that the balls were juice, and which is why there were so many home runs. And I'm going to say, like, regardless of whether or not that was a thing, I think it was an exciting game, seeing all the home runs, right? Judge hitting 2 in that game, it was incredible to see the White Sox at the end win, right? Tim Anderson, as you said, the king of walk-offs, of the bat flips and all of the show side of the walk-offs, it was a really exciting game. I was really rooting for Hendricks, right? And when I saw him like take so many hits and home runs, it hurt a little bit. I've seen him like talk about like growing up in Australia with the Field of Dreams, right? And just being excited to pitch in that game, right? And seeing him blow the save, but then win the game. It was just
he ended up getting the win. So
yeah, it was a roller coaster of emotions. So I think, as you said, it was a very storybook kind of game. It couldn't have worked out better for the MLB, right? Even if they wanted to, it was just incredible. I had a lot of fun watching it.
Yeah, I think it's an important note what you said for people who maybe are not big baseball fans. MLB has had trouble marketing their product, and when I say marketing the product, that also means marketing the stars of the game. Mike Trout is one of, if not the greatest baseball players of all time at this point. And non-baseball fans, they don't know who he is. They don't know the kind of star power is in this league. And this is the kind of thing, Tim Anderson, Aaron Judge, Eloy Jimenez, Jose Gray, these are guys that are marketable guys. Tim Anderson, I think, one of the most marketable guys in sports in general. Him, Tatis, like these guys have huge personalities, and people who aren't necessarily baseball fans are gonna like fall in love with these guys. They're just like, they got so much swag. They're so cool. so I think this is great. And on this kind of note, I think obviously MLB put on a great show. When you think of decisions made by MLB, usually they're made for the owners, not for growing up the game. That's kind of how Rob Manfred runs the MLB at this point. He works for the owners, so the decisions he makes are not necessarily conducive to the enjoyment of baseball. But this was fantastic. This is the kind of stuff they need to do to grow the game more. Do you have any ideas? Maybe another kind of event type game like this. I was thinking, like, I saw like The Sandlot, like other kind of movies, or maybe playing in other parts of the world.
I think the MLB is trying to play in other parts of the world, right? Like they played in Monterrey, Mexico a couple of years ago, right? They've really been trying to broaden up baseball, and I think that's fantastic. I think that's really going to help. Unfortunately, like, it's going to be a long process. I don't think it's going to be like from one year to another, suddenly everyone's going to be watching baseball. But I think like little by little, when you start adding these events, right? Like Field of Dreams, I also saw that some people were asking for the Sandlot now, right? I think it's just a matter of time, right? Time for baseball to pick up as a sport. And of course, like in Latin America, it really depends on which country you go to in Latin America, where baseball is big or not. Like Venezuela is a pretty big sport, right? Baseball oriented country, right? As well as the Caribbean like islands, right? Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Cuba. But then you go like to Brazil or to Argentina, and it's not really big, but I think it's more of a cultural factor than anything, right? I think Brazilians and Argentinians, for example, they prefer soccer. It's just a cultural thing, and I think a lot of the times you can't really force a sport onto people that they don't really are willing to watch, right? Especially if they have absolutely no connection to it, right? Of course you have a Brazilian catcher, right? You talk about Yon Gomez, right? That he caught for the Nats, right, in 2019, and he was Brazilian. And that sort of made headlines over there in Brazil. But it wasn't really, like, it didn't motivate people to watch baseball. But I think MLB has to target the countries that have baseball ingrained in their culture, right? So other Latin American countries, right? And maybe with Hendricks, target Australia now, and Japan and Korea.
And I think with Ohtani,
Exactly.
And I mean, yeah, like having players come from these places across the world is one of, if not the best way to market the game. Like, I think Otani, like every single baseball fan in Japan is probably an Angels fan, like, or at least an Otani fan, right? Because
Yeah.
he has just taken over this game, and trying to reach out the MLB to that kind of demographic, it's going to grow the game. It just has to, and I think doing that with all kinds of star players and wherever they're from, and kind of building the game around the stars, because the product is going to be there with these guys. They always perform. I mean, Vlad Jr., Tatis, Acuna, these guys are just stars, superstars. And I mean, and growing the game in other parts of the world is how you grow the game also in the United States. So I think this is a great step in the right direction for MLB. It was a spectacle. It was just it was very fun to watch. I think I think the juice balls thing, I didn't know about that. Is that like a conspiracy theory, or is it like a mainstream thing?
It's just a rumor. I think it's just a rumor because I think of the number of home runs that happened during that game. I think people started speculating. I think it's just how the ball carries, specifically in the Field of Dreams. And I think it's going to be now a thing, right? Like instead of Coors Field, we're going to play the home run derby in the Field of Dreams, right? Because of how the ball carries.
Yeah, like
I mean, it would be great.
Yeah, the way the hitting it into the cornfield and stuff, that was really cool. And also Jose Abreu hits the first homer ever hit in MLB history in the state of Iowa. I didn't know that. That's cool.
That's cool.
Yeah. So definitely a great thing for MLB to do. I think looking at like on the reactions on Twitter, it was a slam dunk. It was a home run. The way people responded to it, and like you said, hitting them in an emotional sense, also with the sport of baseball is definitely a great way to grow the game. So that, I think, I mean, there's not much else to say. It was a total win for baseball.
It was.
So talking about a couple other teams in the MLB, since buying or selling at the deadline, mostly buying, some teams have been super hot and super cold. The Red Sox are one of the coldest teams right now.
Yeah.
In a bit of a tailspin. They've lost 13 of 20, 7 of 10, and I was looking at the standings a week and a half ago, and they were above the Rays, and now they're 5 games back of the Rays. And the Yankees are almost catching them for second division, and they're almost out of the wild card at this point. The Athletics are Athletics, Mariners, Yankees. They're teams that are contending for the wild card. So have you been looking into the Red Sox at all? And also, do you think Chris Sale coming back tonight can help them out a lot?
I've definitely been seeing the news about the Red Sox, and sometimes just see what they're up to, right? Because especially I really like Verdugo as a player, right? So now that he's there, Kike Hernandez, right? It was just nice to see the Red Sox do well, I guess it's part of baseball again, how the Red Sox have suddenly just fallen from the face of the earth and might not even reach the playoffs, right? And I think a big thing about it is not only maybe the Red Sox being cold, but also the other teams really being red hot right now. The Yankees, right? They lost the Field of Dreams game, but they have been red hot, especially since the trade deadline. They were 4th, right, in the division, and suddenly they might reach 2nd, and it's the Tampa Bay Rays didn't reach the World Series for nothing last year, right? They are proving that they can get there again, right? And they might be a World Series contender again, right? They might win it, who knows? But definitely it's the Red Sox. It's just a matter of Verdugo going into paternity leave, just Chris Sale, I think, coming back might give them the impulse they might need in order to make a run for the money, right? But I think one player isn't enough to push a whole team, and it's just we'll just have to wait to see if the Red Sox get hot again, right? If they get red hot again,
Nice. Yeah, and Chris Sale is one of these electric players that we haven't seen his impact in a couple of years now. But he's got some fire to him, definitely. Him and Max Scherzer are similar in that regard. But this team, they've had pitching problems almost almost like always. Like
Yeah.
I can't remember when Sale got hurt. They haven't really had this kind of ace guy, and they did bring him back the right way. They didn't rush him back.
Yeah.
They brought him back now, so he can probably be fully stretched out. I believe he threw 89 pitches in his last rehab start. So
Really?
he can probably be stretched out to, get up to triple digits in pitches. Maybe not the first start back, maybe the second start back. But they didn't make any major moves at the deadline. They picked up Kyle Schwarber, which just made me so depressed as a Nats fan because he quickly became one of my favorite players on the Nats. Oh my god! But so he came back yesterday. So they got some good stuff going for them. I think Sale might be able to be, like you said, the kind of impulse they need to get going again. But talking about the Rays, they acquired Nelson Cruz in one of the better signings, I think, or better trades. I don't know if it was a trade. So one of the better trades, I think. This was a while back for the deadline, but he's been slumping a little bit since joining the Rays. He has 6 bombs in like a month, but he's hitting just under 200. But the Rays are one of, if not the, like I said, them and the Giants are the hottest team in the league right now.
Yeah.
Randy Rosarena he's awesome. Like I know I keep saying he's just one of those guys that you think you were following the playoffs closely last year. He can win Rookie of the Year this year, which is kind of weird because he was such a big part of their playoff run for the Rays.
Definitely.
So have you been paying attention to the Rays, and do you think that with the way their rotation has kind of been hit hard without Glass now and they lost Rich Hill, do you think they have a chance to take over this? They're already over the division, but keep this going.
I think they definitely have because I think they can, and I think again, like they have all of this star power as well, like maybe not pitching wise, but definitely batting wise. They have all of this electric kind of players, right? That bring so much excitement to the game, and I think that's really what's going to help them, because it's, of course, like you can win games with defense, but you can't really win games without offense as well, So it's you have the Rays that suddenly, like a couple of months ago, they weren't really doing that well, right? They were struggling a little bit, especially like after Glass now, like it really hit them. And then now they're starting to get into the rhythm. And I think it's just a matter of rhythm, right? That both the little pitching that they have and the star power that they have when batting, right, and in defense just has to come together for them to like push themselves over the top and win the division over the Yankees and the Red Sox.
Yeah, that's another one of these divisions. It's you can compare it to the NL West where there's 3 top teams there. And I just actually wanted to talk about this real quick. Albert Pujols on the Dodgers.
Suddenly woke up and he's suddenly 20 again.
Yeah, I think he's been hot, not necessarily as hot as like he has been in his career, but as opposed to his playing on the Angels, he's been just night and day difference. How do you think he's affected the Dodgers?
Definitely positive. You have Theo Albert there, giving you hugs whenever you hit a home run, and I think maybe playing wise, he hasn't been playing as much, right? Like they haven't been putting him on as much, and maybe like it's not his peak, but he definitely has been bringing at 40, like that sort of electricity that the Dodgers needed when everyone was hurt. Which is weird to say that Albert Pujols brought a lot of maybe not speed, but definitely horsepower to the Dodgers. And it's great to see him like feel at least come back to that rhythm of hitting home runs and RBIs and hits, and it's just great to see him play in a Dodgers uniform, after admiring him from afar, in Angels uniform. It's just nice to see him like it being your team and for once not hit against you.
Yeah. And I am not, I was not, when he won his first ring, it was a long time ago. I don't remember. Yeah. I don't remember that World Series that much, but it will be cool to see him. I don't like the Dodgers, but like it will be cool to see him get another ring. Obviously at the tail end of his career. You as a baseball fan, you love to see that. So we're gonna wrap up here in just a minute. I want to get your opinion on Shohei Ohtani.
Love
He
him.
is you can't not like him. This guy
You
is
can't just not.
he's so cool. And
He is.
he always looks so he looks so happy all the time.
He does. He just seems like a great guy to talk to, like whenever they put him on TV, I think you've seen this around, but whenever they put him on TV and they're saying like comparing him to Babe Ruth and he's just like juggling baseballs or something like that. It shows what kind of guy he is. And I think he's just an amazing baseball player that again can bring up so much like a bigger fan base from Japan, like seeing him pitch so well, this duality of him, like the pitcher and a batter, how that, and he's a great pitcher and a great batter, he's the leader right now, I think, in home runs, like it's impressive to see him play. And I remember when he first came in, right, and he got hurt, and people were like, oh, maybe Shohei Ohtani won't reach his potential of a pitcher and a batter, right? But then suddenly this year, he just awoke and started batting and pitching incredibly. He started the All-Star game, right? He was first in the lineup in the All-Star game, like that was the first time in history that's ever happened. So it's just incredible to see him dominate, maybe the Angels aren't doing as well, but he's definitely showing his full potential, right? And he's showing what he could do to everyone around the world.
Yeah, and I mean, as a baseball fan, you want the Angels to be good. I want them to be good, and they're just not. Like even if Trout hasn't been healthy all season, even if Rendon has been healthy all season, Ohtani cannot be your ace. He just can't, because he's also hitting 38 homers. He's pitching like an ace this year.
Yeah.
He has in the second half, his ERA is 1.4.
Yeah,
which is impressive. Just ridiculous. But this is a guy that you don't want your team to. I don't want to say you don't want your team to run through him, because it does at this point. But you need to invest in your pitching. You just have to. So
definitely.
So I think the Angels have made a mistake in not doing that. I mean, they get Alex Cobb and Jose Quintana, and those guys just, they haven't cut it. And you have, at this point, the two best players in baseball, right? Trout and Ohtani. I think you can say. I mean, Vlad Jr., Acuna, Tatis, they're up there. But with regards to Ohtani, no one can do what he does right now. Just no one. And I mean, Trout he's been out the majority of this season, but even if he was there, I mean, you never know. But I just don't think they would be able to contend with the Astros or the A's. So
definitely. And I think it's just a thing about like Shohei Ohtani, like he can't be the best batter and pitcher in a team. He just can't. Like it's impossible for a team to do well if you have literally one guy that you're depending on for both pitching and batting, So I think they have to invest both ways. You can't, when Mike Trout comes back and he's healthy, you can't just have him as well. You can't have two batters and a pitcher. You have to really shape a team. And I think that's what the Angels haven't been doing. They say like, oh, we have Mike Trout. Look at this shiny little boy. We have Shohei Ohtani. Look at this dual like pitcher and batter. But you can't. That's it. Like you have to invest a little bit more on players and pitchers alike.
Yeah, and this is their time. I mean, they've signed Trout for ever at this point.
A long time.
He's just, I believe he just turned 30, and he's the kind of guy that he's going to adjust his game to be the best as it possibly can as he gets older. So I mean, we've seen him kind of slow down in the running aspect of his game. He had maybe 30-40 steal season. He's kind of lowered that, but the average and the power has stayed where it is. And for a guy who understands his body like that, that's definitely important. I mean, I honestly want, if Max was to go to any team, I wanted him to go to the Angels. They weren't good enough to make that big of a splash. But you can't be better than, they're a 500 team right now. You can't be better than that without a solid starting rotation. They just don't have it. Like, and they don't have I don't want to say they don't have the player development, but they haven't been able to kind of like the Blue Jays. They got Robbie Ray. They've turned him into a solid number 2 starter for them. He's up there in the top strikeouts in the league. Like they haven't been able to do that with like some of these unknown guys that often. So I mean Quintana's come in, and I think he's hurt now, but and Bundy, his ERA like above 6 or above 7 or something. So yeah, this is the team that I want. I want to see Ohtani and Trout in the playoffs. playoffs. I think every baseball fan wants to see Ohtani and Trout in the playoffs. So yeah, I think, and I mean, the Astros, like, whatever, man, they're good.
They're fine. They're fine. Like I think people just really just don't want them in the playoffs anytime soon. At least like they have to change their whole lineup.
The culture around there.
Yeah, they have to change basically the whole team before people actually start rooting for them again. Like I don't think people are gonna be happy to root for a team, where you have Altuve, and all of these people that really just did not respect the game at all. They just did not respect the game. They didn't respect the players, didn't respect other teams, the Yankees, the Red Sox, the Dodgers and the World Series. They just didn't respect anyone. So I think the Astros just need to change the whole team for them to actually be a team again.
Yeah, I mean they're at the top of their division. The A's are keeping up with them. A's have they acquired Marte, who's been quietly among the league leaders in stolen base. He is 29 this year. Yeah. But I mean, what I kind of want to get to real quick before you head out is the state of baseball right now is, I think, in a very, very good place. I think with the Field of Dreams game, it kind of shows the MLB is starting to market around their young talent, which they need to do.
Yeah.
And I mean, there are these guys, Ohtani, Trout, Acuna, Tatis, Vlad Jr. These guys have personalities that are conducive to marketing. Maybe not Trout, but Tatis, Vlad Jr., Ohtani. They have personalities that are conducive to growing the game. And I think MLB, like I said, it's a step in the right direction with the Field of Dreams game. I think they just need to keep going with that. And, baseball will become it's an exciting sport for baseball fans. It's not an exciting sport for people who don't understand or don't like the game that much. So I think these guys are the kind of things that baseball needs to capitalize on and really get the game. People say it's nowhere near the NBA, and I get it. It's not. But you can get there with marketing, and because like I said, the product is there.
Exactly. And the NBA has done similar things like the MLB. They have marketed around players, right? Like Giannis right now, like they are marketing around players that, again, like bring so much diversity to the game. Like Giannis isn't from the US and he's winning, NBA titles, and that just appeals to a lot of people. And I think that's happening with Tatis and Shohei Ohtani. They're marketing around players that reach so many more audiences than just inside a certain country, right? Or a certain group of countries. They go across oceans, to reach Japan and Korea. So I think it's just exciting to see where the MLB will head with the marketing of these young players.
Yeah, for sure. And with that, we're going to end off here. It was very, very nice talking to you. Love getting your input on the Dodgers and your overall enthusiasm for the Dodgers. It's nice to see. I love talking to other baseball fans. So thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll be able to do this again soon. We'll get some more M2M content to you guys going forward into the home stretch of baseball season, and when football and hockey starts, we'll get into that as well. So thank you all for watching. I'm Khalin Kapoor, I was hosting. You want to introduce yourself because you never did that?
I never did that. I'm Montserrat Marquez.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining me. It was a blast doing this. You were love your input, and thank you guys for watching. Have a good one. We will catch you in the next video.
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to our channel, the M2M Network, for more sports and entertainment content.